Billam-Smith's first world title defence against Mateusz Masternak at the Bournemouth International Centre. Just waiting as the undercard weigh in. As we see in the background there, Francesca Hennessy, of course, daughter of promoter Mick Hennessy, making the second appearance of her professional career on Sunday night. Tomorrow, Sunday boxing, I'm not sure. Are you a fan of Sunday boxing? I'm not quite sure. The Sunday truce, very, very important thing to us. But we are live, as I just get out of the way, so you can see some athletes rather than my horrible, ugly face, as we count down to the return of Chris Billam-Smith, dubbed the return of the king this weekend against Mateusz Masternak. Mateusz Masternak, if you're not familiar with him, is a very, very game competitor indeed. One of the best cruiserweights in the world for the best part of the last decade or so. Has only lost to the very, very best in the division. People may remember him against a certain Anthony Bellew when he's in between jumping in and out of the jungle. He used to do a little bit of boxing once upon a time. Had a great win over Mateusz Masternak a few years back now for the European Cruiserweight title. He's only come up short, Masternak, against the likes of Tony Bellew, against Grzegorz Drozd as well, was stopped in 11 rounds on his stall at the end of the fight. And also coming up short against Uniel Dorticos. As I try not to talk over Andy Scott here, real professional Andy Scott. Don't wanna upset him. But we are live. Just going to wait, as always, for a few people to join us on the live chat. Don't forget to get your questions in where possible. This is very awkward, but just diving on so I can have a look at all of the comments. Hopefully there are a few of you out there. If not, we will be waiting for you to join us. Stephen Antrobus says, yes, Rob, I've missed these streams. Thanks very much, Stephen. I'm glad somebody's missed them. Haven't done them in a little while. But we're here. We decided to do it a bit impromptu today. We're going to be roping in some guests. I see one of the leading sports writers in the country over there, Mr. Wally Downs Jr. Desperate to get in. He can't hear me, but I will definitely get him in. Pretending that he can't hear me, but we'll see how we get on.
Introducing first, he is undefeated with 11 wins.
Here we go.
No losses. Fighting out of Accra, Ghana, please welcome Musa Senior Awodadi Lawson.
Musa Lawson, who's going to be boxing a certain Michael McKinson this weekend. As you can see, Michael McKinson's dad up there on the stage. Michael McKinson, of course, former foe of a certain Virgil Ortiz, looking to get back in the mix at 147 pounds. Came up short against Virgil Ortiz in a very brave showing last year. Very good fighter, Michael McKinson. Maybe a little bit too good for his own good. If you know, you know. Very awkward, crafty southpaw. There's not too many people who want to jump in the ring with Michael McKinson. Just getting out of the way so we can see.
With an impressive professional record of 25 wins versus just 1 loss.
Michael McKinson. Good to see Michael McKinson back out. Had a bit of a stop-start professional career. Of course, had that bout with Virgil Ortiz Jr. Came up short, but a lot of people do come up short against Virgil Ortiz, one of the best young fighters in all of boxing. The problem. There he is, Michael McKinson, from just down the road in Portsmouth, so not quite a Bournemouth local, but it's all on the South Coast. Good for South Coast boxing. One of the great things about Chris Billam-Smith bringing these shows down here in the last 18 months. You see the likes of Michael McKinson, you see Lee Cutler, who's also on the undercard for the English Super Welterweight title, getting those opportunities that maybe they didn't always have in London, in Manchester, and some of those, I guess, more prominent boxing cities. But we are now down here in Bournemouth, a world champion from Bournemouth. Of course, the first since the great Freddie Mills many, many moons ago. Chris Billam-Smith making the first defense of his WBO Cruiserweight title tomorrow night. Just going to dive out so people can see me before the head-to-heads get going. Not that you really want to see me, but anyway. As we go, there we go. Michael McKinson going to get out of the way again, very awkwardly shuffling in and out of shot. Good fighter, Michael McKinson. Unflappable, very much believes in his skills. I think he's a little bit of a harder puncher than maybe his record suggests. Obviously not a puncher per se, but told this is going to be a very, very good fight. Matchmaker Al Siesta expecting a good fight tomorrow night. 10 rounds for the WBC International Silver title. One of those ranking belts that, of course, if you win one of those, you can find yourself shooting up the rankings pretty quickly. Looking for another big fight, Michael McKinson. It's a good weight in the UK. Already beat the likes of Chris Congo. He's called out Conor Benn, called out David Avanesian. Wasn't too long ago, he was calling out a certain Jaron Boots Ennis. If you know how good Jaron Ennis is, then you'll understand how crazy that sounds. Here we go, just ticking along here for the undercard section of the Billam-Smith Masternak weigh-in.
Michael, great reception from the crowd to be expected just down the road from Bournemouth. You've got a lot of
shooting out.
We're expecting this could be anything tomorrow. It's got a great record on paper, but it's the unknown. So are you prepared for the unknown?
Just checking in with a few people. Don't forget to get your questions in. Make sure you hit the like and, of course, the subscribe button on One-on-One Boxing for more boxing content. Lots of stuff coming up in the next coming weeks. Got a lot of Christmas content for you. Got a lot of Christmas presents for our One-on-One audience. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Of course, December the 23rd. We've got to get past that first. Going to be trying to grab a few people from in and around today's weigh-in. Going to try and bring a few people in afterwards. I'm hoping that we'll get Mr. Chris Billam-Smith, of course, the main event, the World Cruiserweight Champion. Here we go. Up next, we have Lee Cutler, of course, Bournemouth's own longtime friend of Chris Billam-Smith, boxing for the English super welterweight title against Kingsley Egbenike. People may know Danny Egbenike. People may know Danny Egbenike, of course, Danny Darko. Interesting fight, this, I think. Particularly when you consider Lee Cutler's just now moved to McGuigan's gym, as you can see him on the stage there with Josh Pritchard. Having a look at Kingsley Egbenike on the scales. I think we're all good. 10 stone, 12 pounds for Kingsley Egbenike. So comfortably inside the 154-pound championship limit. 10 rounds for the English super welterweight title tomorrow night. Lee Cutler now, of course, Bournemouth's own, heading to the stage. Rebounded very well, Lee Cutler, from a first-round stoppage loss to Brad Ray at middleweight. Just had a little pause there as the Bournemouth fans show the local lad their support. Looking in terrific shape, Lee Cutler, in his first fight outside of, well, under the McGuigan's gym banner with trainer Josh Pritchard. Expecting a really good fight there. Lee Cutler, very silky boxer. Kingsley Egbenike from boxing stock, as they say. Just going to wonder if we can... It's going to potentially bring in Michael McKinson there, but as elusive outside of the ring as he is in it, and unfortunately not able to get him. What's your CBS Masternak prediction, Rob? Asked Jordan Pollock. I'm expecting a really good fight. I think Chris Billam-Smith wins the fight, but I think it's a very, very difficult fight. Masternak has been around for a long time, and nobody's ever given him a voluntary shot at a world title, and there is a reason for that. He is one of the most experienced and one of the most dangerous fighters in the cruiserweight division, but I do expect Billam-Smith to get the job done, potentially in the second half of the fight. If not, then by a points decision. But I do expect it to be a very good fight. Both guys who like to throw hands, both aggressive fighters. I think we'll see Masternak probably on the back foot a little bit more. Chris Billam-Smith coming forward and pushing the action as we wait for Lee Cutler and Kingsley Egbenike to go head-to-head. Good fight here. Lee Cutler very much revved up, and Kingsley Egbenike didn't have an awful lot to say at yesterday's press conference, very much choosing to let his fists do the talking tomorrow night as he seeks to become the English super welterweight champion. Good long stare down there. Ben Shalom splitting it up, breaking it up. Ben Shalom, promoter / security guard for one day and one day only. Getting in the mix, Ben Shalom. We are expecting a very good fight. Chris Billam-Smith is rarely in a dull fight. His fight last summer with Isaac Chamberlain at the BIC, the Bournemouth International Centre, in front of about 4,000, but they do make an awful lot of noise in there. It's really well put together as well. So you've got like all surround of the arena, makes a lot of noise. I was just going to say we'll listen to Lee Cutler, but we can't hear him. I was going to translate an English to English translation, but we probably won't do that. I think this could be fight of the night, although I do expect the main event to be very, very good. As I have a look at Al Siesta, responsible for matching this one. Done a very good job with the card, as he always does. Big up Al Siesta every time. Well-matched fight. Well-matched fight. The English title fights always deliver. Any English title fight, British title fight, you get a well-matched domestic title on the card, and you tend to be in business. Much prefer it with respect to the international, continental, intercontinental title bouts. Do feel like fighters really do care about these English titles, these British titles. It's what they want when they're making their way up as professionals. Kingsley Egbenike, as I mentioned, not too many words from Kingsley Egbenike, but he's here now. He's made the weight. He doesn't need to talk. He's going to be fighting tomorrow night as we move on to the next bout and the return of the Olympic gold medalist, Lauren Price. Has a little bit of a step up here against Silvia Barto, who has won a European title, admittedly, at a lighter weight. But Lauren Price now on the cusp of those big fights. As we all know, the female game doesn't really have the same sort of depth as the men's game, so it can get up to title levels quite quickly. Lauren Price made no secret of the fact that she's looking to box Sandy Ryan. She's looking to get up there and mix it with the top girls in her weight class, as we wait and see Silvia Barto weigh in. Very experienced campaigner. As we await Lauren Price heading to the scales. Just going to shift over this side. Which former Team GB Olympian will have the most successful professional career? Ask Boxing News. I'm assuming we're meaning from Tokyo. I think they've all, to be honest, in various different ways, have made very good starts to their professional career. Galao Yafai, of course, also a gold medalist. He's in action next weekend on the undercard of Jesse Rodriguez versus Sonny Edwards. I think he's made a very good start. Of course, boxed a 10-rounder in his first professional content, as we just await Lauren Price's weight to be read out by Big Mo on the stage. 10 stone 6 pounds for Lauren Price, so 1 pound inside the 147-pound welterweight limit for Lauren Price, looking in fantastic shape as ever, the Olympic gold medalist. But back to the question about which Olympian is going to become the best pro. Ben Wicker's not really had the best start to his professional career by his own admission, has struggled with injuries and hasn't really been able to get those types of opponents that we're going to see the best out of him. Fraser Clark, I think, is ticking along okay now. I thought those 10 rounds against Marion Spack were very, very beneficial to him at that stage of his career. Just trying to think of the other ones off the top of my head. I think Chev Clark, although didn't turn over with a medal, didn't turn over with the acclaim of some of the others. I think he's made a pretty good start to his professional career. So I had a very good win last time out against Vasil Dukar, who, of course, went 10 rounds with Chris Billam-Smith not too long ago. As you see, Lauren Price and Silvia Barto squaring off on the stage. Don't forget to please get your questions in. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to One-on-One Boxing as we tick down to Chris Billam-Smith's first defense of his WBO cruiserweight title against Mateusz Masternak. Expecting a really, really good fight, a competitive bout from the first bell onwards between two, to be honest, pretty hard blokes. Chris Billam-Smith and Mateusz Masternak, neither of them shy of letting their hands go, both very, very rarely in a dull fight. Mateusz Masternak believes this is his time. He's competed at the top level for a very long time, but now feels like he's got enough experience, and this has come at the right time for him to become world champion. As we hear from Lauren Price. Going to be interesting to see what 2024 has in store for Lauren Price. I mentioned there's some big names in and around her weight class in the female code. We see it's a little bit more common for people to jump up and down the weight classes as well in the female code due to that lack of depth. But we've got Natasha Jonas, we've got Sandy Ryan, both world champions at 147 pounds. Very unflappable character, Lauren Price.
Well, I think so. We'll win in comparison, but obviously your performance will be judged against that and who win the distance.
Michaela Meyer as Andy Scott, the very professional Andy Scott, just reminding everybody there as we see Chris Billam-Smith just waiting to come on afterwards. I'm trying to get Chris Billam-Smith to come on afterwards, just showing him the microphone. We'll see if we can get the champ on after he weighs in, of course, as we get things going into the light heavyweight division. And one of those fighters who we've just spoken about from that Olympic class, Ben Whittaker, elite level amateur for many, many years, hasn't had the type of professional career so far that we were hoping to see from him. He struggled with a long-standing shoulder injury and also had to have a little bit of time out, but is back this weekend against Stephen Leonetti. Those two are a little bit spicy at the press conference yesterday, which I thought was a little bit of a surprise when you consider Stephen Leonetti doesn't speak the best English, but I'm quite sure Ben Whittaker can get into an argument with anybody, whether they speak the language or not. As we wait for Stephen Leonetti to be announced. 12 stone, 8 pounds, so just a pound over the 175-pound limit, but of course this is not a championship bout, so it doesn't really matter. Nobody has to make the weight. I mean, obviously you have to make within some sort of pre-agreed limit, but 176 pounds absolutely fine for this. As the very confident Ben Whittaker just prepares to head to the stage.
Darlaston, West Midlands, England, introducing the Olympic silver medalist.
Always full of confidence, Ben Whittaker. Good to see him back. Really need to see a busy 2024 for Ben Whittaker. Plenty of noise coming from Ben Whittaker's travelling entourage. Looks in terrific shape, Ben Whittaker, as he often does when he heads to the scales. Just waiting for Ben Whittaker's weight to be announced. 12 stone, 6 pounds for Ben Whittaker. So we've got Stephen Leonetti just a pound over the 175-pound limit, whereas Ben Whittaker coming in 1 pound underneath the 175-pound limit. It has been a bone of contention in his professional career so far. Is Ben Whittaker maybe a super middleweight? You know, if you're making the weight that easy, I mentioned earlier, there's no need to make championship weight. Certainly no need to come in underneath championship weight. Could he maybe make 168 pounds? I'm sure he's not going to want to, but he looked pretty full there on the scales, Ben Whittaker. As you can see, the six-pack was bulging. Everything was looking pretty healthy, which I'm sure he's happy with that, but as we know is not often the case with fighters when they're making weight. Just wonder at this stage of his career, Ben Whittaker, whether or not maybe making super middleweight could be part of his future as he faces off with Stephen Leonetti. A few things to say to each other recently, Whittaker and Leonetti. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Ben Whittaker entourage members, all with their cameras out. You'd think they'd just get one camera, to be honest. Just need one camera. Just one. But as I mentioned, Ben Whittaker not had the quickest ascent as a professional so far. Looking to get very, very busy in 2024. The word that he said to me yesterday was active, and I think that's what we want to see from Ben Whittaker. We want to see him taking those step-ups in 2024. There's a lot of great talent at light heavyweight in the UK, the likes of Dan Aziz and Joshua Boatsu, who, of course, lock horns on February the 3rd. Then there's the likes of Craig Richards, Lyndon Arthur, of course, boxes for a world title on December the 23rd. So there's plenty of meat for Ben Whittaker to get his teeth into in 2024. Looking in tremendous physical condition, Ben Whittaker, as we wait to hear from him as he speaks to Andy Scott. But yeah, an undoubted talent, a maverick talent, Ben Whittaker. We don't produce too many of those in the UK, but he certainly is that. Gonna listen to Ben Whittaker. Often has interesting things to say.
How, I mean, testament to your professionalism and your dedication, but not much else to come off that frame, surely. Yeah.
Andy Scott says not a lot to come off that frame. I have to disagree with Mr. Andy Scott there, although he does know an awful lot more about losing weight than I do. 176 pounds, a pound inside the light heavyweight limit. Ben Whittaker just looking forward to the 5 guys after the fight. That makes 2 of us. I will also be looking forward to a Five Guys after the fight.
Stephen Trevor, he's talked the talk. You've got a bit of a target on your head. You've always had that target, but do you want to sort of punish him for those words he said yesterday today?
Yes, it'll be a beat down from round one to whatever round we continue. Wanted to come game, wanted to bring the fight.
I hope Man United scalp Bournemouth today for making us watch a Sunday show tomorrow. Oh, great. Yeah, we
Yeah, I feel like just the people back in the day.
Yeah, a Sunday show. I mean, I have to say, I'm always happy to work. I'm always happy to deliver whatever content the people want. But yeah, on a Sunday, anybody who knows the Sunday truce should never be violated. But here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, the main event of the evening tomorrow night.
What do you think of Sunday boxing? I'm usually a big fan of boxing that's outside of the Saturday night time slot, but a couple of weekends before Christmas, maybe they could have left this one. As we get ready now for the introduction of Chris Billam-Smith, the WBO Cruiserweight Champion from here in Bournemouth, and of course the challenger, Mateusz Masternak, very experienced, seasoned campaigner. And Mateusz Masternak, he's not Richard Riatport, he's not Lawrence Okoli, so he doesn't have that UK audience and that UK name recognition, but he is a very, very serious threat, a very, very serious opponent, and a very, very serious challenger to Chris Billam-Smith's world title.
Introducing the former WBA Intercontinental, the former IBO
As we wait.
Intercontinental, the former WBC International, and the former European Cruiserweight.
As we wait for Big Mo to list every single belt that Mateusz Masternak has won in his professional career. Not sure we needed to hear about the IBO Intercontinental, but Big Mo very thorough in his job, as we see Mateusz Masternak looking in incredible shape, as he has done throughout his professional career. A very experienced, seasoned campaigner. 14 stone 2 pounds for Mateusz Masternak, so 2 pounds inside the 200-pound cruiserweight limit. Of course, 14 stone 4 is the 200-pound cruiserweight limit, so a couple of pounds inside for Mateusz Masternak. Did he overshoot the weight? That can quite often happen. If you are tight at the weight, you take a little bit too much off, but he is a very experienced campaigner, Masternak, so you wouldn't necessarily expect him to do anything wrong on the biggest fight of his life. As we await now the introduction of Chris Billam-Smith, the WBO Cruiserweight Champion. Good little turnout for Chris Billam-Smith here in Bournemouth. Of course, the fourth time we've been down here in the last 18 months for Billam-Smith, as he makes his way to the ring. The volume just going up here inside the Bournemouth International Centre, as the WBO Cruiserweight Champion Chris Billam-Smith makes his way to the stage. Mateusz Masternak, 14 stone 2. Chris Billam-Smith. 14 stone 3 pounds for Chris Billam-Smith, so 1 pound inside the 200-pound limit for Chris Billam-Smith. We have a fight here in Bournemouth. The WBO Cruiserweight Championship will be on the line. Chris Billam-Smith at 199 pounds against Mateusz Masternak, who weighed in at 198 pounds, so both comfortably inside the 200-pound limit. And we have a fight on the South Coast tomorrow night as we await Chris Billam-Smith and Mateusz Masternak to have their face-off ahead of the action tomorrow night, and that will bring to an end today's weigh-in. You see Ben Whittaker just walk past as we wait for Chris Billam-Smith and Mateusz Masternak. Two real consummate professionals. I'm not expecting this one to get any argy-bargy or pushing and pulling. Good turnout here for Chris Billam-Smith. Not out on the beach today, inside, away from the biting Bournemouth cold. And here we go. Chris Billam-Smith, the WBO Cruiserweight Champion, facing off with Mateusz Masternak. Both men looking in terrific physical condition ahead of tomorrow night.
The master versus the gentleman.
Going to try and grab a word with Chris Billam-Smith.
Live tomorrow night.
But also may struggle, because we do have a lot of very, very excitable Bournemouth fans here. No handshake there. Billam-Smith and Masternak. Both men make the way, and we have a fight here in Bournemouth. Let us know who you think wins in the comments. Will it be Chris Billam-Smith? Will it be Mateusz Masternak? Just going to go through a couple of the questions we've got here. Jordan Pollitt, do you think Ben Whittaker will become world champion? I think he has all of the talent and all of the skills to do so, but that only goes so far when you're a professional fighter. You need an awful lot to fall your way to become a world champion. Even in the 4-belt era, there's a certain Artur Beterbiev and, of course, Dmitry Bivol, who might stand in people's way for a few years yet.
Now, importantly, only the few words. And the new
Mateusz Masternak and the new, very much excited here. Didn't go down particularly well with the Bournemouth faithful.
I'm looking for more than 3 words. You've got a great reception today. First time that we've had a public into these events. Just a little bit of a look into what's going to happen tomorrow. Just how important are these kind of teams? Because the ladies, they tend to like the 12-man in football, but these really do spur you on.
As we wait for Chris Billam-Smith to have his little interview with Mr. Andy Scott. Looks a very confident move. Chris Billam-Smith, of course, won the world title against former stablemate Lawrence Okoli last time out at the home of his beloved AFC Bournemouth, a place where he held a season ticket. Big Bournemouth fan. He's back here at the BIC, which is a good little venue. I think nowadays, with everybody seeking to do the O2 and Manchester Arena with a quarter full, if that capacity, it's good to go to a place that's full. And you hear a lot on Sunday. Well, Sunday night. I was going to say Saturday night. Chris Billam-Smith vowing a career best performance against Mateusz Masternak, and he might well need it as well. Chris Billam-Smith, always taken every opponent in his stride, has moved up the levels well over the years. I think really since that second Tommy McCarthy fight, has really gone from strength to strength, and of course now become world champion. And still there from Chris Billam-Smith as he gives an applause to his beloved Bournemouth faithful, big fans of the gentleman, as he makes his way away from the stage. Going to try and grab him and chuck him onto the camera. He might want to get back and eat, but that's okay. Huh? Yeah, well, as we wait for Chris Billam-Smith to come round. Just speaking to the head of the British Boxing Board of Control over there, Mr. Robert Smith, before he hopefully makes his way around and catches up here live on One on Boxing. He's sitting down now just to potentially do his final little bits of medical checks ahead of tomorrow's bout. Just having a little look around and seeing who we could potentially grab and bring over. There's not too many people around, I'm not going to lie. Lots of fighters, they tend to, after the weigh-in, want to run away and go and eat some food. As we wait for Lee Cutler, who is challenging for the English super welterweight title, is going to come and join us here live on One on One. Lee, you're looking in terrific shape. How are you feeling?
Great. As you can see, I'm in good shape. First camp under the McGuigan camp, and Josh Pritchard. Yeah, can't wait to show a fight night. You
mentioned that the first bout under the McGuigan's gym banner. What was it about the McGuigan's gym banner that really tempted you up from the beautiful South Coast?
Just the talent in the gym and what they do to fighters. What they've done to Chris, like since the amateur days. We know each other from the amateur days, and I now see him spar and what he's like, and he is a beast. And I said to the boys the other day, I'm like, what have you done to him? What have you done to him? After watching the sparring session, but you guys will all see Sunday night.
You boxing Kingsley Egbenike tomorrow. He's a man of few words. There wasn't an awful lot said between you in the last couple of days.
He's hard work.
Not the best for the media, but that's fine. What are you expecting from him tomorrow night?
I think he's just a little bit awkward by watching him. Haven't watched too many. There's not many fights on him. Couple of losses. I think one of them he got knocked out early, which we're not looking into because that happened to me as well. So anything could have up there. He just looks a little bit awkward and wiry. In his other defeat, I thought he won by watching it back and watching bits of it. And the other one was a draw, which I thought he won, which is over in a different country again in the away corner. So I've got to be switched on with him, and just got to be switched on and ready for it.
You mentioned Chris Billam-Smith, of course, somebody that you've known for a long, long time, as well as a boxer. He's also a friend. What does it mean to you to potentially, follow in his footsteps? And he's brought big-time boxing back down to Bournemouth. That must be such a motivation for you.
That's it. My aim is to headline down here eventually. And now being in a camp like the McGuigan gym, they're going to want that for me. So English title was just another step in that direction. Obviously, me and Chris have been living with each other in this camp. So yeah, it's great to just learn off him, and yeah, what an idol and what somebody to look up to. Do you know what I mean?
Last quick couple before I let you go and get some fluids and some food into you.
Thank you.
Final prediction. I'm going to go for your fight first. Lee Cutler versus Kingsley Egbenico.
A chaos win in any means necessary. And yeah, I need to win to progress my career.
And finally, the big man, Chris Billam-Smith versus Mateusz Masternak. Tough fight?
I believe it is a very tough fight, but I believe it will be the second time he's been stopped. Is it the second time? Yeah, second time.
Got stopped by Droz,
Yes,
but yeah,
yes,
it wasn't a clean knockout. He stopped in the corner.
Yeah, he's never been dropped. I know he's never been dropped, but he's never been in there with somebody of Chris's work rate and speed. And I believe that's what will catch him off guard.
We look forward to it. All the best
Wicked.
tomorrow
Thank you very
night.
much,
Lee Cutler, thanks very much for
Cheers.
joining us. I'll grab that off you and we'll catch up with you very, very soon. All the best, Lee. Let him get out of here now. Must be terrible for somebody who's making weight to look at somebody like me. So always try and get rid of him as quickly as we can. As we wait for Shane McGuigan, who's picked up, is that the British Boxing Board of Control Trainer of the Year, I believe, Mr. McGuigan. We'll see if we can grab a word with the Trainer of the Year as he comes off the stage now. Chris Billam-Smith also with a little eye. So we were talking through the award ceremony, how incredibly rude of us here on One-on-One Boxing. I'm going to try and grab them as they walk past. Can't imagine that they want to stay for too long. Just doing a few little bits and pieces around the corner at Chris Billam-Smith before he comes to join us. I'm sure he'll come and join us on One-on-One Boxing. If you haven't already seen it, check out Cherry on Top live now on One-on-One Boxing on YouTube and across Boxing News on social media, which is our behind-the-scenes documentary, our little short film of Chris Billam-Smith, that glorious night back in May, as I grab Josh Pritchard, who is, of course, now not only the assistant to Shane McGuigan, but also, of course, the trainer of the soon-to-be, I'm sure, English Super Welterweight Champion, joined now by Josh Pritchard. Josh, how are you?
I'm good, Rob. How are you, mate?
Very well, thanks. Very well. I was just mentioning that. I was just speaking to your charge, Lee Cutler, who looked in phenomenal shape on the scales today, of course, now under your stewardship at McGuigan's gym.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably the best he's made the weight from what he's been telling us before. So he looks in great shape, didn't look drawn or nothing, very healthy. So he's fit and ready and, yeah, ready to put a good performance in.
Now, for people who maybe aren't as familiar with Lee Cutler, as I'm sure they will be after tomorrow night, what type of fighter is he? What have you seen in the gym over the last 8 weeks, and what have you been able to tweak and refine?
Lee can do a bit of both. He can box, he can punch a little bit. He can put his hands together, punch a combination. So we've just been tweaking little parts of his game to make him a better overall fighter. We've only had 8 weeks with him. So, you know, there's only so much you can do within 8 weeks, but I'm looking at the bigger picture. Obviously, I want a good performance and to beat Kingsley in style, but we move forwards after, maybe get a shot at the British next year and see where we go.
He spoke quite openly about, wanting to follow in the footsteps of Chris Billam-Smith. Of course, has brought big-time boxing down here to Bournemouth, fourth show in the last 18 months. Just on the big man himself, obviously boxing Mateusz Masternak. People may not be as familiar with Masternak as they are with your Okolis and your Riapors. This is a very serious fight for CBS.
Absolutely. Masternak's a very dangerous fighter. I think, like Sky's been saying, Masternak's not usually a voluntary defence. So I think we're going to be in for a tough night, but just touching back there on Lee, I mean, Lee once got aspirations to headline the Big himself one day, just like Chris is doing. So, but yeah, Masternak's a very tough opponent, and I think we're in for a fan-friendly fight.
What are you expecting from Masternak for people who have not really seen too much of him?
He's aggressive. He likes to put his hands together, and he's heavy-handed. He never looks to really load up, but he's just consistently punching hard. So Chris has got to be on it tomorrow night. He's got to hold his shape well and be switched on for 3 minutes of every round.
Always talk to people about what it's like for world champions. Once they become world champions, people often say, it can give them that extra 20%, or often it can take a little bit away from them once they've achieved their dream. What's it been like for CBS? How's he been in camp?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that's it's really solidified his confidence in winning the world title. He's always carried himself with a lot of confidence anyway in the gym. We refer to him as team captain. But yeah, that performance last time out in May has really given him the confidence in the gym to sort of prove that what he's doing is right. So I think now he's going to probably put in the best performance of his career so far.
And finally, before I let you go, it was award season up there. There's a
Yeah.
certain British Boxing Board of Control Trainer of the Year, Mr. Shane McGuigan. We're not going to stay on it for
Yeah,
too
that's-
long because
yeah,
his
yeah.
head is even bigger. But what does it mean working under Shane? And of course, now you're in your own role as lead trainer out of the gym.
Yeah, I mean, look, Shane's obviously, he's got a load of experience. He's produced several world champions. We was going, Lee touched on it the other day. We went through the list of wins. I think we're at 147 wins, and there's not too many losses. So that speaks for itself. But you know, Chris and Shane have done a fantastic job together, and they definitely deserve the awards.
Right, final ones, predictions. So let's start off with your man, Lee Cutler, against Kingsley Egbenike. How's he going to get on?
I don't mind how he does it, as long as he gets the win. I think that if he boxes well and he performs well, I think we can get him out late. And for Chris, maybe the same. Look, Masternak's never been stopped, never been dropped. So, you know, it's going to be a hard ask to knock him out. But if Chris puts his shots together well, I think he could potentially do that. But definitely CBS win.
Okay, well, we look forward to it. Josh Pritchard, always a pleasure. Thanks very much
Cheers,
for joining
mate.
us here.
Thank you.
I will ask you to go and grab Chris Billam-Smith and send him over this way.
CBS.
Thank you very much. That's what we are. We're bringing you everything that you could possibly want here on One-on-One Boxing. We're gonna let Chris Billam-Smith. We're gonna let Chris Billam-Smith hug his mum first. When you're ready. Yeah, didn't want to interrupt quite a soft, tender moment there with Mr. Billam-Smith and Mama Billam-Smith as we see Tris Dixon, the man, the myth, the legend, invading the South Coast. Hopefully catch up with Tris, I'm sure, at some point over the next couple of days. One of the very best men in this funny old world of boxing media. As we wait for Chris Billam-Smith, yeah, as always, you know, he's being mobbed. You know, we're going to have to separate part the Red Seas to get Chris Billam-Smith over here as he takes various photos, signs various babies and all of that good stuff. An exciting time. Oh, yep, here he's going to be joining us now. Chris Billam-Smith, the WBO Cruiserweight Champion of the World. How are you, Chris?
All good, mate. All good. All better now after I weighed in and had a little drink. So, yeah, all good.
Looked in pretty good nick up there. How was making weight this time round?
Yeah, quite comfortable. As comfortable as it can be. The right side of hard, you know, that there's a line. But, yeah, no, I make it comfortable and, yeah, feel good. Feel good on for tomorrow night.
I was just mentioning here, it's always an experience coming down to the South Coast. It was a very different experience coming down in the winter, but anyway, we move on from there. But a really good turnout today, really good showing, and we're just waving to Frank Billam-Smith, of course, who is Billam-Smith Jr. Who's I'm sorry to borrowing your dad just for a couple of minutes. We'll get him back to you pretty soon. But yeah, back to this Bournemouth turnout. Very loud when you hit the scales. Must be such a great feeling.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's amazing. Yeah, I'm so lucky to have that crowd, and yeah, they get behind me and turn out, sell out the arena for me. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so lucky to have a support like that, and it's definitely not lost on me, and I thrive in front of it.
Take much from the face-off with Masternak, or is it just at this point observing the pleasantries?
Yeah, I think so. He's done it how many times before? I don't think he's too bothered. So yeah, no, it was good. Good to to do, but it's all about tomorrow night now. There's no more niceties from me. It's all zoned in.
Last quick couple from me. Award season up on the stage here at Bournemouth. There was a British Boxing Board of Control trainer, Mr. Shane McGuigan. What was your one that you got?
Fighter of the Year.
Fighter of the Year. That's a pretty good one to get.
Southern Area Fighter of the Year. Shane got Southern Area Trainer of the Year. And yeah, rightly so for him. You know, the work he continues to do every year. I think they'd probably give it to him most years, a lot of the time, but I think they'd be a bit biased. But or people would think it'd be biased, but he's such a good coach, and he proves it non-stop. So yeah, really happy that he got his.
Final one from me. Prediction time tomorrow night. Chris Billam-Smith make you the first defense of your WBO Cruiserweight title against Mateusz Masternak. How does it end, Chris?
I believe I'll do the best job of him than anyone's ever done. So stoppage at some point, but and a real clinical performance.
Okay, all the best. Thanks very much for joining us here. Sure, we'll catch up with you soon.
Cheers, mate.
The
Thank you.
WBO Cruiserweight Champion of the World, Mr. Chris Billam-Smith, as we await the British Boxing Board of Control Southern Area Trainer of the Year, Mr. Shane McGuigan. He's just yakking off camera. I think he's showing off his award, I think, actually, to people. He's doing a lot of photos. He's not. I don't want to say it as well because he might tell me off. We see lots of playing around. I've always liked a nice family vibe when we head down to Bournemouth. It's one of the more fan-friendly and family-friendly places that we visit in the boxing calendar, put it that way. Things just starting to die down here at the Billam-Smith Masternak weigh-in. Right, grab Mr. Andy Clark. Mr. Andy Clark, of course, the Boxing Show alumni, the Boxing Show's finest. Just down there's a big deal, you see. He's doing interviews. Media out there asking Mr. Andy Clark for their time. You know, they want that Boxing Show buzz. You know, they want that clout from the Boxing Show. So who can blame them? The Boxing Show, remember, every Monday at 5 o'clock on Boxing News. I'm not sure what we're going to do on Monday this week, though, because we're going to wake up in Bournemouth, which is, I mean, lovely, obviously, in the summer, especially. But we'll have to see what time we get back. But it's most Mondays at 5. As we just look around, Bradley Skeet there. Bradley Skeet, of course, now training fighters, is training Francesca Hennessy, who was part of Mick Hennessy Jr.'s training team as well. As we see Nick Blackwell, former British middleweight champion. Down. They're always good to see Nick Blackwell in good and out at the boxing. As we just have a look around and see who we could potentially snare and bring on to the live stream. Trying to make eyes at Shane McGuigan. It does look a bit strange when I'm just sort of, but hopefully we'll be able to grab him and bring him in. Yeah. But winding down here, Hungry G says Masternak is a very tough fight for CBS, and I think he can force the stoppage. But if he does, how much of a statement is it? If he stops Mateusz Masternak, it's a very impressive and very important stoppage win. As we see Mr. Ben Shalom walking around, I don't think Ben Shalom wants to come on the live. I think he's shuffling away. He's shuffling away. He asked me to play football earlier. Anyway, so we're just awaiting. We're waiting for somebody to join us because I'm pretty sure that everyone's getting sick of the sound of my voice by this stage. Just go back to Hungry G's question. Yeah, it's a very, very big statement if he's able to stop Masternak. If he's able to beat Masternak, it's a very good win. It's up there with one of the best wins of Chris Billam-Smith's career. I mean, I can't think of too many harder opponents. Riakporhe at that stage of his career, both of their careers were both far from the fighters that they've become, and certainly far from the fighters of Mateusz Masternak. Lawrence Okoli obviously had the familiarity. Chris Billam-Smith with Lawrence Okoli, boxed with him in the gym. Going to try and grab Sugar Shane McGuigan, the Southern Area British Boxing Border Control Trainer of the Year. We're going to give. You got to bring the awards. You got to bring the awards. Really? You got to bring the awards. The people want to see the awards. Here it is. Here's the awards. We're just going to hold it here for the whole meeting. Is that? There we go. That's all right. It is Southern Area Trainer of the Year. You can put it down.
It's
now.
quite cool. That'll be going in the loft. Nah, it will. Yeah, we'll see.
How you getting on, Shane?
Good, mate. How's life? What are you doing here?
I'm coming to watch some boxing.
But what is it? A live stream?
Yeah, we're doing live. Yeah,
Okay,
we're very live,
cool,
so
cool.
please don't fucking swear.
All right, wait.
But anyway, let's move on. So Chris Billam-Smith looked in phenomenal shape, as did, of course, his challenger Mateusz Masternak.
Yeah, but you know that with Masternak, he's always been in decent shape, and so is Chris. So yeah, it doesn't really. You can't read into too much. Masternak 2 pound under. I don't think he's going to be one of those guys that blows up. But we'll see. He's you know what you're getting with him. So yeah, we've got to be rules meeting at 3 o'clock. Make sure we pick the right gloves. Make sure we do everything right for the next 36 hours, and then he defends his world title, and we roll on to the next one.
I was just talking on the stream there about kind of where this would place among Chris Billam-Smith's toughest opponents so far. I think it's somewhere around the top. It's got to be, hasn't it?
Second,
Behind
third, behind Lawrence. I mean, obviously, yes, he lost to Riakporhe, but he was inexperienced. You know, the Chris Billam-Smith that boxed Riakporhe destroys Riakporhe of the old, but obviously Riakporhe's improved as well. So the two of them will potentially box again in the near future. But yeah, so you can't really say he was in the top. Yeah, he was a better opponent than Masternak, because you know Masternak has the experience and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely up there, and that just shows you that we've really got to be switched on, because the likes of Tommy McCarthy or someone who's a European champion beat a very weak champion to win the European title, and also didn't hold it for very long, and every time has stepped up has got beaten. So you know, it's definitely a better opponent than that. And then really, you know, it's not as awkward as Lawrence Coley, but he does a lot more things right than Lawrence. So it'll be a lot more dangerous of a fight, especially in that middle distance, whereas Lawrence is dangerous long range. So yeah, we've got to be really switched on. But we've had really good sparring the whole way through this camp, and he's getting better. He's got the confidence. He's got the momentum, even though I don't like that phrase, but it does add a little bit of value.
Mateusz Masternak, as we mentioned there, is a very top-level guy. He's been around the top of the cruiserweight division for the best part of the last 10 years and probably beyond that.
Yeah.
How important is it that Chris Billam-Smith isn't the type of, he doesn't strike me, at least obviously you know much better than I do, as the type of person to not overlook an opponent like a Masternak? It isn't the name that, you know, people wanted to see Riakporhe, people wanted to see Opataya, Gulamarian and those names, but you can't overlook Mateusz Masternak tomorrow night.
I think from a fan's perspective, it's going to be a better fight than him versus Lawrence, of course, and him versus Riakporhe. I genuinely believe it will, because there'll be a lot more punches thrown. I mean, like Lawrence and Riakporhe are big power punchers, but you know they're not that regular with their work, and they're a bit lazy in between their combinations. And I think Masternak's very consistent, throws lots of punches. So, and if you think about it, he got beaten at the end of 2015 by Tony Bellew, who then went on to win. That was for the European, then went on to win a world title. The only other loss since then is Dortkus, who was a world champion and absolute nightmare of a fight for anybody. You know, knocked out Andre Tebbutt, and you know, has always put up a fantastic. He's always been knocking people out. So, and that wasn't close, but it was a competitive fight. So, and the same thing with Tony Bellew. It was a very competitive. I could have gone either way. Bellew hurt him late on in the fight and kind of swung it for me, but it was right in the balance. So, all the other defeats were early on in his career, and you know, as early as 2013, stuff like that, 2011, and you can't really read into all of them. You know, he's got 5 losses on his record, but he hasn't lost since. He's only lost once since Chris Billam-Smith's been professional, and so has Chris. So it's a very evenly matched fight.
A win would be enough of a statement, but how big of a statement would a stoppage win be for Chris Billam-Smith?
Oh, it'd be massive. You know, that would be massive, because he's not, you know, on paper, Chris looks like a puncher, but you know, he's got good power, but he's not like a one-punch knockout artist. He puts them together well, and I think, you know, someone as defensively sound as Masternak and he's got as good of a chin, it's going to be hard to stop him. But you know, I'm sure there will be moments in the fight that, you know, Chris buzzes him and hurts him, and you know, I hope there won't be moments in the fight that Chris gets buzzed and hurt. But you know, I'm a realist as well, and I think like 14 stone 4, but by the time they walk in tomorrow, they're both over 15 stone. You know, it's 30 stone, like combined, whacking each other in the head. You're bound to get hurt at some stage. So it's just a bit about who weathers it, who keeps their composure, who finishes strong in the rounds, who's consistent throughout the rounds. And that's one thing I've looked at Masternak. Like, he's very consistent in the rounds, and he just, you know, he just does enough a lot of the time because he doesn't load up. So yeah, we've got to be very aware of that, not giving rounds away.
Final one from me. Somebody else who boxes tomorrow night, another new recruit to McGuigan's gym, of course, working with Josh Pritchard. Lee Cutler challenges contests the English super welterweight title against Kingsley Egbenike. Been good to have him in the gym. Obviously, a bit of new blood at McGuigan's gym. Yeah,
he's a great lad. He's been in the gym sparring the likes of, you know, Josh Taylor since as early as 2015. When I was working with Josh, so we brought him down, and Lee's always been a really good sparring partner and always, you know, giving us competitive rounds. So it was a big help in the camp for Josh Taylor versus Ivan Baranchek as well. So I've always had I've always looked at Lee and always had my eye on him, and I think what he's always lacked is that little bit of discipline. You know, he boxed bad at middleweight, and you know, he should never have been a middleweight. When he came into my gym, I said, "You should be a light welterweight," jokingly, but obviously, you know, meaning that he could even do welter at the time. He's now filled into a fully fledged light middleweight, and I think that's the weight for him. But you know, back then he was always heavy and ill-disciplined, and I think, you know, being around good fighters and disciplined fighters and people that take themselves really, really seriously, like that goes on in our gym, is only going to bring out the best in someone like Lee. So I really hope he can get to Kingsley, because Kingsley as well, he's been in the gym sparring a few times over the years, and slippery. He's got good jab, he's got good work rate, and he's a good boxer. So, you know, one thing that Lee can't do is let him get into a rhythm and start picking up rounds. He's got to make him miss, and he's got to you know, apply that pressure.
Final prediction for the main event tomorrow night?
Haney, I'm joking. Chris Billam-Smith. Chris Billam-Smith win, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if there is a stoppage.
Okay, well, the British Boxing Border Control Southern Area Trainer of the Year, Mr. Shane McGuigan, thanks very much for joining us.
Will be the British Boxing Border Control Trainer of the Year.
Going to
But
unify.
Politics always.
It's going to unify.
Politics always kind of gets in the way of that one. But no, appreciate it, mate.
Thanks very
you.
much for joining us. We'll catch up with you
See you,
soon.
mate.
I'll
See you
take that
later.
off you. And he's off. Looking to become the unified trainer of the year, Shane McGuigan. As we're just looking like we're wrapping things down here, we've got a few people knocking around and floating about in the background. Chris Billam-Smith. It's always a good sign when you see somebody who's made weight and hit the scales and then hangs around afterwards. They're not desperate to rush off. Always a good sign that a fighter has made the weight well. Mr. Andy Clark, I tell you, we've spoken to 3 people and he's still yakking on. Just talking about the boxing show repeatedly. Just plugging it. Plug the ting, Andy. Come on. Seen a few other people floating around in the space. Everybody's seemingly a little bit too busy for us here. I think Triss has headed off. I think we're probably gonna just wind things down. Just wind things down very, very slowly here on 101 Boxing. We're probably how are we doing for battery? We're good for battery apparently. But anyway, gonna go and dive in here. Jordan Pollock says, what are your tips for the weekend? I think there's some value in Chris Billam-Smith to win a stoppage. Mr. Andy Clark over there, Mr. Andy Scott rather over there, not Mr. Andy Clark. I got a little bit confused. I got all Andy'd out. Give me a little bit of a weird stare. But anyway, I think we're probably about done here in Bournemouth. I think we're going to wind things down. Don't forget to take a look at 101 Boxing and, of course, Boxing News for more Billam-Smith Masternak content as Billam-Smith walks over. There's a lot of fans who've waited for Chris Billam-Smith. Get a photo with him, get a picture, get a bit of this, get a bit of that. Always good to see from the champions stopping by and greeting the fans. But that is going to be all from us here on One, and we've been weighing in from Bournemouth. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Thanks very much.